Today's guest on a Bitcoin.com news podcast is Alexander Guseff, the founder and lead architect of the Tectum blockchain and Softnode. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Good afternoon, Avi. Thank you for hosting me.
So, Alex, before we get started with learning about the technology, how about you tell us about yourself and what inspired you to develop Tectum?
Well, my name is Alex Guseff. I was born in Soviet Russia, later immigrated into the United States, and I went through a couple of businesses. Eventually, I ended up following in love with Bitcoin and blockchain in about 2014. That's when I first invested in Bitcoin. And at some point in time, I realized that Bitcoin requires and desperately needs layer 2 solution. And that's when I formed a group of programmers. And luckily to me, I was able to locate the software, blockchain software, which is now the fastest blockchain in the world, Tectum, which we were able to mutually improve and test in 2018 and 2019, and which really instantly put us on top of the food chain amongst other blockchain projects. And later on, in 2021, Softnode was born as a level 2 solution for Bitcoin, because at that time, Bitcoin fees were already high enough to start representing a problem. And we realized that Tectum actually is the solution to make Bitcoin spendable again. Otherwise, I'm just a simple guy from Eastern Europe who traveled around the world, had various businesses, and finally, I'm doing what I love.
That's great to hear. So can you start introducing, Tectum to anyone who is not familiar with you and Softnode, and let us know, what type of layer 2 solution you're offering Bitcoin? Because it's pretty unique compared to other solutions that we've seen so far.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Well, the basic, I'll start backwards if you don't mind. I'll start with Softnode, go back to Tectum, and then we'll come back to Softnode. Is it okay?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, the primary difference between Softnode and other layer 2 solutions, and the best competitive example probably would be Lightning Network. Hope you agree with me. Is that Lightning Network does not really offer the full throttle layer 2 solution, because it only isolates and piles together off-chain transactions and then eventually conducting settlement on a layer 1. Lightning Network it's a fork of Bitcoin network. Softnode approached layer 2 solution in a completely different manner by minting and creating millions and millions and millions of Bitcoin wallets and representing every one of these wallets by a web page, thus making the entire Softnode network absolutely transparent. On top of it, we have decided to make Tectum blockchain completely and fully public. Actually, it's in our roadmap by the end of this year. And by making it public, we already created, we're just going into the test mode in a few months. We made a public community product, which perfectly blends with the idea of Bitcoin. In fact, it would not be overrated if I say that Softnode is more private than Bitcoin. I'll explain why. Bitcoin is perfect as it is. And I'm not here to criticize Bitcoin network. I'm not here to criticize Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin will probably become a number one store of value in the next 10, 15 years. However, the way Bitcoin network operates is that it heavily relies on mining of Bitcoin, a consumption of energy. Second, its blocks are formed in a spike mode, which means transactions build up, keep building up during approximately 10 minutes. And at the end of these 10 minutes, block is formed. And by the way, that block is capable to include I believe, up to 2,000 transactions at a time, which divide by 60 ends up of 2.5 transactions per second. For example, Tectum can do 3.5 million transactions per second in lab conditions. And in transcontinental setup, it easily goes to 1.3 million transactions per second. Tectum doesn't utilize bundle, a spike mode, which means it flows like a river. So every transaction represents one individual block. It doesn't have build-ups, it doesn't have congestions, and it doesn't have complicated verification process. Therefore, Tectum had a perfect fit with a soft node, and it's having a perfect fit with a soft node model. Going back to explaining the principle, the difference between layer 1 and a true layer 2 is layer 1 is when I have wallet A and you have wallet B. So I transfer one Bitcoin from wallet A to wallet B, but both wallets are recorded on the network. And I am right now advocating my statement of privacy that soft node is even more private than Bitcoin under certain angle. So when transfer is made from wallet A to wallet B, both wallets are recorded in the network. Now everybody knows balance of wallet A, everybody knows balance of wallet B. Yes, nobody knows who you are, but eventually your Bitcoin will changing wallets can be traced. And we already all know that. Bitcoin and Ethereum wallets are easily traceable, and there is actually software which monitors open source software, which is capable of monitoring these transfers, which kind of diminishes the original promise and original commitment to privacy by these first layer networks. What SoftNode does, instead of transferring funds from wallet A to wallet B, SoftNode transfers the ownership of wallet A from one person to another. Thus, there is no actual transaction, level 1 transaction taking place, which makes SoftNode, as I previously mentioned, absolutely private, which means if I minted and created a SoftNode bill with a value of 1 Bitcoin, you, me, and rest of the community can endlessly, without any limits, hand that SoftNode bill to each other, hand over that SoftNode bill, which actually we call it handover. In our back office, in the SoftNode wallet back office, if you will see term handover. This is our little invention, our little know-how. And we can endlessly transfer SoftNode one to another without absolutely doing any harm to blockchain and to our privacy. Our layer 2 solutions do not offer that kind of luxury.
So if I try to describe it from a user perspective, I'd say it's like using online, paper wallets of Bitcoin that hold a certain amount as transferring the ownership of the wallet instead of making a transaction, right? And then having on-chain records of the funds there, obviously, but not of the transactions that are done on the layer 2.
Exactly. That's why we call SoftNode a transactional payment system.
Yeah. So it's basically you can think about it, if you're trying to think about it in a different way, it's like handing over the keys to a safe where the money is stored, right? As a way of giving you ownership over that money rather than sending the money itself between safes.
Absolutely. Very actually well done comparison. If you allow me to use it in my next interviews, I would really appreciate it. Safe, yeah, perfect. There is a you cannot really call it a shortcoming over Bitcoin network architecture, because having highly encrypted private public key model is not a shortcoming. It's the biggest advantage of Bitcoin network. However, the fact of the matter is that private key of particular wallet cannot be changed for the simple reason because private key is the wallet. Therefore, public key cannot be changed. Well, public key we could care less about. It's just a wallet address. But private key, inability of a network to change private key represents a problem when implementing a model like a soft node. Because if I hand you private key from my wallet, now both of us know that private key. Therefore, if funds suddenly disappear from a wallet, obviously you're going to think it was done by me, and I'm going to think it was done by you. That's the biggest. I believe that's one of the primary reasons why soft node idea was not implemented before, prior to that. Because we, as a fintech community, as a fintech society, it took us quite a bit of time. How long did it take? When did we start having Bitcoin transactions? In 2016, and now it's 2024. So 7-8 years. It took us 7-8 years for our paradigms and for our conceptions of which way things need to be done and must be done to mature. And when eventually we came to realize that we actually, owning the fastest blockchain in the world, and why not create the alternative to private keys, but changeable alternative. We call it passcode. It's going to be between 24 to 38 or to 32 symbols. It will be absolutely impossible to reverse calculate. And we're actually thinking about having smaller size passcodes for smaller denominations because it is less likely that somebody is going to want to hack and reverse calculate $1 worth of soft node. But if you have $1 million worth of soft node, it might make sense for somebody to invest their hardware resources into reverse calculating it, right? However, these passcodes are going to be governed, well, they already are. We're just talking about discussing our public blockchain model. They will be governed by Tectum blockchain, and these passcodes will have capacity to be changed or replaced by new passcodes with a velocity of over 1 million changes per second, which basically means that we can, in 1 second, 1 million users will be able to hand over their soft nodes to their recipients, and passcodes will be successfully changed, and our private key will not be revealed.
So that's definitely an improvement on safety of funds, right? Because, yeah, like you said, in Bitcoin, your private keys are the wallet. So you don't really have any way of transferring that, without making transferring the funds without making a transaction. If you give someone the private keys, yeah, there's no way to prove that you didn't save them somewhere, and you can spend them at any time. So that's why nobody would trust a system where you just transfer the private keys of Bitcoin with no protection.
Exactly. And just to make it look even more sophisticated, but not really too sophisticated to understand, we have invented a algorithm which we call private key regeneration model, which basically, literally, and there is no double meaning. There is just when I say literally, means that's exactly what system does. After our system mints Bitcoin wallet, because every soft node build is a Bitcoin wallet. It's an isolated, independent Bitcoin wallet. When our system mints a pair of keys and makes them a web page, the first thing system does, it erases the private key, which means if you even hack our system, which I would not advise anybody to do, even if somebody manages to get into our database and steal couple folders, they will not be able to find these private keys. They don't exist. And another algorithm, regeneration algorithm, restores the private key out of the passcode at the point of burning soft-node bill. In the lame terms, neither blockchain, neither our backend keeps private keys. Don't exist. File folder does not exist. Such file folder doesn't exist in the system. There is nothing to steal.
Yeah, that's the best solution, right? Nothing to steal and no incentive to to hack the system in that case. So that's always a good solution. Alex, so let's try to broaden it more than just the technology. And I wanted to understand your thinking. Why would we want to spend Bitcoin? The current understanding, right, is that Bitcoin is gold and, you shouldn't move it. You shouldn't spend it. Why do we want to make Bitcoin spendable?
Well, it's simple. Well, it's an easy question to answer for a Bitcoin fan like me, because I love it. However, the rationale behind it is that Bitcoin is pretty much one of the few networks which have not been hacked to this day. It's the most stable and the most reliable network. It never went into the stall, never got broken. It is fully, completely decentralized. It is accepted by the entire world as a method of payment. And the only thing we had to do is just to make it spendable again. Now we're looking at Bitcoin and it became a store of value. It's not a unit of account like bankers say. You cannot buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin without spending $10 in commission, which is irrational. Nobody's gonna do that. Lightning Network tried to do that, but then there are fees. If you look at Chiva or whatever that is wallet in Latin America, which is announced and promoted as a zero fee wallet, but the government pays the fee. It's a subsidized wallet. They have not fixed the problem. They just created a crutch. The fee is still paid. There is still a level 1 fees. Of course, you will reply and you will say, well, Alex, when you fill soft-node bill with a Bitcoin, a portion of a Bitcoin, you will have to pay a fee. Yeah, that's true in the blue model. But we also have a green model, which is also going to be governed and run by our decentralized blockchain, Tectum, which will have zero fees because it will work in wrap mode. And yes, the fees will be paid, but they will be paid only once. They will never be paid again. And there are ways to mitigate this issue as an issue, as a unnecessary spending issue. So to make Bitcoin spendable again, I guess it's our credo of a Tectum team.
Yeah, that's a good credo to have. Make Bitcoin spendable again, right? You can print that on a hat. To be popular. Okay, so what are the use cases that you see in reality? Like, how do you think people would use, Bitcoin bills, right, or soft node as cash? Like, where do you see it in your mind succeeding? Like in what markets and what what type of transactions?
Well, there are two questions which really need to be answered here. First, change. How do we give change? Like, for example, you walk up to me and I'm selling clothing and you want to buy a pair of jeans for $37.50 worth of Bitcoin and you have $100 bill. Well, that means that I have a problem if I don't have change for you. Why? Because soft node system is designed to replace paper money. It has nominals, denominations. The same way you will need change when you have $100 physical American dollar, $100 bill. When you walk up to me and say, give me a pair of jeans for $37.50, I'll still have to find there $62.50 to give you back, whether with dollars or with Bitcoin. In this particular matter, soft node system in its original or as we call it, a virgin state. We also call it soft node.cache. That's when every bill is represented by individual web page. In this case, it inherits the change problem shortcoming of paper money. That's why we came up with a second model. We call it .com model, where soft node bill is imported into your Tectum wallet, and it becomes digital cash. Now you can pay me $37.50 and you don't need any more change from me. So that problem we resolved. And the second problem is mass adoption and how Bitcoin will be perceived in various parts of the world, especially those parts of the world where Bitcoin already stood up at some point. And we're talking about Latin America and relatively low mass adoption rates. I believe last year it was 16% official in El Salvador. And we're talking about Middle East, where the accumulation of wealth, and we're talking about fiat, conventional wealth, gold, because they had so much resources they were able to utilize, is also representing a mass adoption problem for them, because they're, for the ruling class, everything is working already. They think that they don't need Bitcoin. Therefore, we're really looking at collapsing economies. We're not going to be pointing fingers. We all know what they are. There is nothing, it's not good or not bad. It's just a consequence of all the monetary policies which came to play after 1946 Bretton Woods Treaty. We're not here to criticize anybody. We're not here to point fingers at anybody. The history is history. Now our generation is responsible for fixing that problem. We personally at Tectum, I believe that the solution is in hybrid model. We call it a synthesis node. It will satisfy both sides. Most of the economies will not be willing to openly dollarize. Agree with me. And some economies, and also lots of economies, might not be willing to fully Bitcoinize like El Salvador did. But hybrid solution, which is basically a triple crypto wallet, comprised of three wallets. Well, let me give you an example. Let's say it will be Lebanese lira, which is 1 to 100,000 to $1 right now. Just imagine crypto wallet, a soft node wallet, just like a web page, worded just like a soft node, comprised of 1 USDT, 100,000 liras, and $1 worth of Bitcoin. Now it has a net value of $3 approximately, right? You're gonna tell me, Alex, but if lira went down 100,000 times, where is the guarantee that it's not going to depreciate another 10 times or even 100 times? I'm gonna say yes, you're right, but we have stabilizing effect, American dollar, which is a stable coin, which does not require to open dollar bank account, which makes everybody capable to hold alternative to American dollar. We call it a stabilizing coin, a stable coin. And the third one is the main one, Bitcoin, $1 worth of Bitcoin. And by saying $1 worth of Bitcoin, I'm just hypothetically drawing the basic mathematical model of synthesis node. By no means I'm trying to say that this is how it's going to be. We're still working on the model. But we already had positive replies from quite a few players on the market, and they agree with us. They agree that most part of the world will be highly reluctant to completely Bitcoinize their economies. Some will be reluctant to dollarize the economies, but having a triple coin, having triple soft node comprised of three wallets and balancing each other out, even if lira goes down to zero, Bitcoin is still gonna go up to $1 million. You know what I mean? And now, in order to take local economy down, you have to take down alternative to American dollar, which is American dollar. because USDT is backed by United States securities by 5-year bonds, I believe, at this point, in a general volume, capital volume, and it's nearly impossible to take down Synthesis node. Well, I mean, I would say not nearly, I would say it is impossible. And in Tectum, we believe that this is going to be possibly the most rational solution for the next 5 years to mitigate, slow down, or maybe completely stop demolition of weaker, smaller local economies. We believe solution is right there.
Yeah, so I think we're already seeing something like that taking shape. Like we can see that in markets in, some markets in Southeast Asia, some markets in South America, they're already adopting, right, from the ground level, they're adopting basically stable coins as a way to hedge themselves against the local currency, continuing to be devalued, right? And Bitcoin is, not even in the run, I would say, as a payment mechanism over there because of the, like you mentioned, high fees, and right. So people use, stable coins like USDT on Tron, stuff like that, as the crutch. I would say to move to a crypto economy, and like you said, Bitcoin, to make it really spendable, we'll need to have some wrapped solutions or stuff like that at this point, because Lightning isn't very useful right now, and be interesting to see that taking shape. But do you think that governments will support this solution of like having a triple vector, like having local and USDT and Bitcoin, right, as a one package? Or do you think it's going to have to done via the merchants and the clients and not via government support?
I think there is a good chance that they will. Obviously, we're going to need a sandbox country which will take a chance with us. A. B. Please take into consideration that whether we like to admit it or not, but as a fintech, a social fintech civilization, we're slowly but surely entering the era of private money. So, after all, it doesn't have to be government. It can be synthesized security. We actually, beginning of next year, we're going to test it with Tectum token. We're going to create in equal proportions a Synthesis node, which will be comprised of USDT Tectum token, which is our company token, TET, TET. It's already listed on some exchanges, and the equal proportion of Bitcoin. And we're going to see how it adopts. We're going to see how it works. We're not yet sure how we're going to denominate it, what kind of nominals, denominations we're going to assign to them, but likely that we are going to adopt dollar model, since dollar is still in for the nearby future, looks like will be reserve currency, and so we likely are going to adopt with 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, and so on values in order to keep it method of payment, and possibly will attempt to list it on some exchanges as a semi-stable coin, because it does have stabilizing effect, USDT, agree, and it does have infinitely pushing up asset, Bitcoin. I mean, algorithmically, Bitcoin has propensity to infinity in its value, and that we will definitely do. We do have couple, relatively big players who've been talking with us, with trying to establish dialogues and trying to represent the model. Although we need to take into consideration that adoption of Bitcoin itself needs help right now. Therefore, we are going to focus on a purely Bitcoin-based soft node for purely commercial use and for purely retail use. And in a parallel, we are going to do a test run and create some kind of a sandbox for a Synthesis node with our own token. Tectum token.
So this is just a like off the cuff thinking, but can you use the same technologies with other non USD assets? Like, can you do the same for like, let's say an ounce of gold or like a set, I don't know, a stock of a company? Can you use that as like a synthetic?
Are you talking about physical assets?
Yeah, not necessarily like a stock also, but like a base asset. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything which can be digitized, can be made into synthesis node. Anything. Unfortunately, we cannot say the same about gold. Gold is a strategical material. Country which keeps your gold, and every asset is kept in some country. We don't have a single square foot of land on this planet which would not belong to some country. Everything belongs to some country. And that country has its own constitution and it has its own law. And commonly, every country admits gold as a strategical asset, well, which basically means if that country goes into war, all gold kept by that country is confiscated by the government. Since Tectum is not a country, we would have to find a country which would commit to examine that gold, our gold in this particular case, owned by our community, by our asset holders, to be untouchable. And that we don't know how to do legally. I mean, look at the history. Every time big one comes, everybody grabs whatever they can get their hands on and put it into their treasury and just leave everything in courts after the war is ended. But we're yet to see gold to be returned to the original owners. If you look at the history of World War I, World War II, nobody returns gold. So, having said that, I would be very careful in trying to digitize physical assets, especially assets which are considered to have strategical value, such as gold, diamonds, petroleum products, lithium, and so on. But digital assets like stock, other crypto assets, other stable coins, yes, of course, definitely.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take because right now a lot of companies are focusing on real world assets, right? And yeah, we're being led to believe, right, that it's the safest thing, right? Like if you have gold in a safe in Switzerland or Singapore or one of these countries that offer these services, you're supposed to believe that's the safest option. Yeah, but the world we currently living in is changing, and yeah, like you're right, people are seeing the value in Bitcoin, that it's not controlled by any one government, and it's not seizable, right, by by normal means, right?
Exactly. Gold is a highly seizable asset. Thank you very much. I will use it with your permission. Gold is highly seizable asset, and the Bitcoin is zero seizable asset.
Yeah, that's a good selling point in these days. Okay, so can you let us know more about like the DeFi options that you have on SoftNode? For example, I can see that there's staking and minting. Can you tell us, about those options and why are they important?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, in order to mint SoftNode, and by minting, I don't mean put an asset in a SoftNode. That is, the SoftNode has 4 phases in its existence. It has a cycle, 4-phase cycle, 4-step cycle. First one you mint SoftNode. Second one you fill it with liquidity. It's liquidity provision. The third one is actual cycle. That's when you sell SoftNode or use SoftNode to buy something. And the fourth one is you burn SoftNode. Burning SoftNode means give me my cash out, give me my money back. Filling SoftNode bill is when you actually deposit Bitcoin to the SoftNode wallet. And minting SoftNode, kind of going backwards. And minting SoftNode means creating a SoftNode bill. Well, you need Tectum token to create SoftNode bill. That's the primary and only utility of Tectum token. Tectum token is designed, that's quite called the Tectum emission token. It's solely in the primary purpose is to create soft node bills. The second part of your question is, what are we going to do next with it? Well, the API and the community product is being released next month. Finally, community will be able to download and install live light nodes. We already had light nodes available on GitHub since last year, but we have not seen we have not seen any substantial mass adoption or use of that community product simply because there was not enough functions comparing to, for example, Ethereum smart contract option. This time is going to be different, and it will be completely developed. We were able to successfully create a department in the company which is 100% dedicated to community products. That's the first one, which is kicking in next month. We are releasing mobile app on both platforms, Apple and Android, also in September. I believe September 1st is our due date according to the roadmap, and it looks like everything is happening on time. Next one will be Softnode Pay, which is our .com model, which will allow Bitcoin to be spendable without nominals, which means you will be able to buy a 25 cents worth bubble gum at the gas station with a soft node, and you will not need change and you will not pay commission. Softnode Pay mobile app is coming out probably in October. Then, along with Softnode Pay, we will release Softnode Merchant, which will allow a restaurant owner to control, let's say, 9 restaurants through his mobile app, and every one of those 9 restaurants will have a client mobile apps capable to accept Bitcoin and other crypto too, not Bitcoin only. Right now we have USDT and Bitcoin fully equally adopted. By the end of the year, we will have SDK and one step up consensus, which will make Tectum network completely fully public. And what I mean by fully public, as a software engineer, I mean that there are types of consensus which, for example, require KYC in order to become a validator, and there are types of approaches where, in order to become part of the consensus, in this particular case, Tectum network, you will need nothing. You can remain completely anonymous, just like in Bitcoin network. Therefore, as you can guess, probably we're using Bitcoin network and its approach to publicity and its approach to privacy as a role model to build our consensus. Just our consensus is the next generation consensus. It's a fast consensus. It's a generation 5 consensus. And we will release SDK. SDK is a different ball game. It's a completely different level than API. It will allow for third-party players and other crypto projects to actually build on top of Tectum network their own tokenomics, their own economies. We will have instructions and their source code for Explorer. They will be able to mint and use their own tokens. They will be able to create liquidity pools, and they will be able to create their own soft nodes on top of Tectum network. And in 2025, hopefully, and I'm saying hopefully because it's not official in the roadmap, but we're working on it, and I'm the biggest proponent of that. I believe that the time has come for true P2P platform. And this is actually answering your original question, DeFi, our DeFi ambitions. I believe that the future of trading is in P2P. And I'm not saying that CEX networks go into history. I'm just saying that CEX trading is largely dominated by algorithmic trading. With our P2P system, it will be nearly impossible to do. It will have counter-offer options which will basically allow you to bargain with your second party, with a guy or girl you're trading with, though maintaining absolute anonymity. Like, I'll give you an example. You have one Bitcoin soft node bill, and I have 70,000 USDTs in soft nodes, which makes us both completely anonymous because all we do is to import our soft node bills in anonymous back office on our P2P platform. You find me, I find you, or I find you, and you choose me not because my price is the best, but I just have better rating. So you're clicking, and well, in this case, it will be me because you're selling your soft node bill. You're selling for, let's say, 55,000 USDTs, and I want to buy it for 53. Well, now prices change, but I'm just maintaining a general kind of math just so everybody understands how it's going to operate. And I'm pressing yellow button. There are going to be three buttons: green, yellow, and red. Green, accept the deal. Red, reject the deal. Yellow, counteroffer. So I click on the yellow and I offer you 63.5. When you receive my offer, you instantly receive notification in your mobile app, and you're saying that somebody, you don't even know who, but guy has a good rating, and he does have cash because system will show that I do actually have cash deposit. It will be impossible to conduct a deal if you don't have soft node bills already imported into the system, into the back of the system. So basically, P2P will have custodianship over yours and mine soft node bills for the time being. Well, we will maintain absolute anonymity while doing that. And you also will push the yellow button because you're not absolutely not willing to sell one Bitcoin to me for 63.5. So you're countering me. You're producing counteroffer order. And you're saying, okay, guy, I ordered for 65, but I'll sell it to you for 64.5. Now I get notification on my mobile phone saying, hey, this guy replied, he's definitely not willing to accept 63,500 offer, but he will sell to you for 64.5, which means he gives your $500 break. Well, of course, if I offered $63,500 for Bitcoin, I'm definitely not going to pay 64.5. So I also press the yellow button and I pop-up window. Everything's going to be very simple, very friendly, very intuitive. It's not going to be a burden to newcomers. We're going to provide the exhaustive tutorials to the system. And I press yellow button and I say, okay, 64,000. And we're actually thinking about giving the users the capacity to leave comments, anonymous comments. It's like, hey, guy, 64 is my top. I will not give you more than 64. And you receive a notification. You open an order. You see that I made you a $64,000 offer. You even made a comment. And you say, well, you know what? I'll sell it to him for 64. And you push green button. And at the moment you push green button, the system releases your soft node bill worth of one Bitcoin back to me. It exports it. It's gone, permanently gone from your site. You will never be able to enter your passcode in your soft node. It's gone from your wallet. And the same happens to my 64,000 USDTs. They're imported, whatever they are. If they're 6 soft node bills, $10,000 worth, and 4 bills, $4 worth, they will come to you in a bundle, to your email, if you provide it into your back office, or just as a text file. And deal is done. Deal is closed. You and me had a dialogue, and we had a healthy bargain without even knowing each other's names. It hasn't been done before. We believe that in terms of practicality, this system is going to work much better, and it's going to be much friendly and much easier to learn for an average common user, especially for newcomers, when it comes to mass adopting the system and when it comes to actually practically using Bitcoin as a method of payment. Because at the end of the day, as a jeans and t-shirt retailer, in South America, you're likely going to want to end up with USDT than Bitcoin, especially first 2-3 years of adoption. Most of local assets and most of fiat currencies are converted through USDT and not through Bitcoin. And this trend will likely to remain for the next 3 to 5 years until Bitcoin reaches its full maturity and becomes fully spendable. Then more Bitcoin pairs, Bitcoin fiat pairs will be created, and SEX and DEX exchanges will start adopting direct crypto fiat conversions, which our P2P model also offers. That's what we advocate at the end of the story. But right now, we believe that this is going to be the practical solution to marry fiat and crypto.
Yeah, it's a very interesting solution. And, everyone started in crypto back in the day with, P2P. And you had to go either, something like a local Bitcoins or something like that to get your hands on some Bitcoin and not a centralized exchange where you have to give out your, all your KYC details. And I definitely can see the idea of how it's, will be a tool for merchants, right? That need local or, local currency to settle their, salaries or taxes and everything, right? So and for that they need USD, right? So you can take the Bitcoin and trade it with some, either an individual or a trading desk, right? Via the P2P platform. They get the USDT, the trader gets the price that they wanted, right? And they go settle that. So I definitely see the focus on real businesses, traditional, merchants, that you're taking focus on. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. We also put in our hopes and our faith in this model. We also, as many of us, lots of us, went through all this evolution of P2P. I remember Bitcoin, local Bitcoin.com. I've done tons of P2P sales and purchases at local Bitcoins, and I saw that death. And I personally believe, if you ask me, why a former model of P2P collapsed was claims. As a third-party platform, you have no way of proving that the actual fiat funds have been transferred. How can you know if I made a transfer in UAE dirhams? Banks do not provide confidential information to third parties. So there is no way. And the way these P2P platforms, and that's what Binance and other CEX players have been trying to do. They're trying to build everything on reputation. So they have user rating, right? And the first thing you do is you see how many trades this user have done, how many years they've been members of, let's say, Binance or MEXC, whatever. And their rating, if their rating is 100% or has a propensity to become 100%, you can see how many claims and what kind of claims. You're not afraid to deal with that person, and you're sending them your Bitcoin, and they're sending you dirhams or dollars. The model collapsed because it is genetically flawed. There is no access to the second part of transaction. There is no access information not released. How are you going to know? You're not going to know, and you cannot really win that claim. Legally, you cannot win that claim. How are you going to prove me that this fund's been transferred? And how can I prove you that they have not been transferred? So that's why lots of these P2P platforms failed. With SoftNote, it will be completely different because SoftNote is a bankless and accountless payment system. And if you have United States dollar or UAE dirham SoftNote bill for 1,000 dirhams, and I have 1,000 dirhams worth of Bitcoin SoftNote, the system just gives up my passcode from my SoftNote to you and passcodes from your SoftNote to me. And then you can do whatever you want with my dirhams. and I can do whatever I want with your Bitcoin. The claim is mathematically impossible. It's excluded. System gives away as soon as one of us pushes green button. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a brilliant solution to avoid having to have like a trusted, man in the middle that's gonna verify that the funds were transferred, right? Like a escrow system or something.
It is kind of escrow system. We call it semi-custodianship because you can withdraw your soft node bill anytime. It's just that one fact that I will not be able to place an order on P2P platform until I handed over the password, the passcode from my soft node bill to the system is telling the other party that money is there. That's it. When you conducting P2P deal with me, when I have dirhams, well, for God's sake, my bank controls my dirhams. There is nothing I can do. Or a transaction can appear to go through, but did not reach your bank account because of some KYC problem or any other problem bank might decide to create for us. So it's not even the question of integrity or dignity of participants. It's a question of absolute unpredictability of our current conventional banking system. It's not that I'm trying to cheat you out of 1,000 dirhams. It's just my bank decided to block my card.
Yeah, that definitely happens. Okay, Alex. So I want to thank you for, letting us have a look into your solution and telling us about, the upcoming roadmap and everything that you have, coming up. Can you let our audience know, where should they follow you and learn more about, the upcoming solutions, or where should they sign up now to try out the system?
Or at Tectum, anywhere at Tectum on Twitter, at AV Guseff, Guseff, my personal Twitter account, which I'm working on developing, mostly our Twitter account at Tectum and at Tectum Social, I believe.
It is Tectum Social on X, and we'll have the connection in the description, as well as your own, also your Telegram, Facebook, Discord. We also have your personal LinkedIn if anyone wants to try out there, to connect and try out the soft node system and open a wallet, play around with it, see if it's for you. So thank you very much, Alex.
You're very welcome. That's very mutual, Avi. Very pleased to meet you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Bitcoin.com news podcast. Follow us for more interviews with the most interesting leaders, founders, and investors in the fields of cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, NFTs, and the metaverse. NFTs and the metaverse. NFTs and the metaverse. NFTs and the metaverse. NFTs